Hey, Derrick, guess what?
Hit me with it.
We just got a promotion with Audible.
Audible, fantastic. I love Audible.
Do you know what the cool thing about this deal is?
What's that?
If our listeners go to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod, they get a free trial with Audible. And do you know what they get with that?
What do they get with that? Tell me.
They get one free audiobook of their choice, and they get 2 free Audible originals, which is special content that Audible makes available free for all its subscribers.
Are you kidding me? That deal is so good, I may go myself and sign them.
Do you think they let you keep the books after you're done?
No, you're not going to tell me they let you keep the books after you're done.
Yes. In fact, you can go sign up for a trial, and you can cancel before the trial ends, and you get to keep the books you've already downloaded.
Well, I don't see how you can beat that with a stick.
Exactly, yeah. And you can, lots of great books, especially for fans of this show. You can listen to Super Gods by Grant Morrison, which is all about like how the superhero comics have changed and evolved over time. Or you can check out Marvel Comics, The Untold Story.
Which is a terrific book. I have that both in hardcover, and I listen to that on Audible myself in my car while traveling back and forth.
And there's also another similar book that's called Slugfest, which is about like the wars between Marvel and DC Comics.
Oh, okay.
So that's another one you got to check out too. So yeah, head on over to audibletrial.com/supercinemapod and start your free trial right now. You get 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible originals, and you can keep them even if you cancel before it's over.
My city, she's always there for me. Every lonely night she's there for me. She's not some tarted up fraud all dressed up like a piece of jailbait. No, she's an old city, old and proud of her every pocket, crack, and wrinkle. She's my sweetheart, my plaything. She doesn't hide what she is, what she's made of. Sweat and muscle and blood of generations. She sleeps after midnight and until dawn, only shadows move in the silence. Damn, I've got no time for this.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And I am the intensely satisfied other half of your host, Derrick Ferguson.
Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody why you're so intensely satisfied today?
Because you hated the shit out of the movie that we're going to be talking about this week. And so even though it isn't quite the same, I feel like I'm back at you for making me watch Daredevil.
Nowhere near the same.
It wasn't the same because I like Daredevil.
Yeah. But you know what? It's that old Klingon proverb: "Revenge is a dish best served cold." So I'm gonna get back at you one day when you least expect it.
Well, yeah, when you least expect it, expect it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was watching this movie last night, and I kind of hated you a little bit after when I finally got to the credits of what felt like a 6-hour long movie, because it's just, oh God, I was so surprised when I look back at it. It's only an hour and a half.
Yeah. We should tell the folks, if you don't know by now, we are of course discussing that train wreck of movies. You know, whenever anybody starts talking about Batman and Robin, I said, well, have you seen The Spirit?
Yeah.
And then they said, that's okay. Then how can you rag on Batman and Robin?
But before we jump into that, I wanted to quickly just talk about some big MCU news that was announced this past week.
Oh, okay.
And,
let's do that.
Not sure if you heard this, but Jonathan Majors has been cast as Kang the Conqueror.
Oh, yeah.
And of all movies, Ant-Man 3.
You know what? Okay. I read on Facebook, of course, a lot of people bitching about that. But I said, well, it's kind of following a natural thing because it was thanks to Ant-Man and going through the whole microverse thing that the Avengers were able to time travel.
Right.
In Avengers Endgame. So it seems to me, yeah, that the Avengers traveling through time would catch the attention of Kang.
That's my thinking too, because one of the things, I saw a lot of people saying, like, well, Kang versus Ant-Man doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm like, well, they never said that he was playing the villain of Ant-Man 3. They just said that Kang is going to be a major player in Ant-Man 3.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think you're right. I think it's going to have something to do with the fact that, Scott figured out how to travel through time. He gave that information to the Avengers, and all the Avengers traveled through time. And I think, Kang's going to be looking to doing some, maybe policing of the timeline or something like that. Because the thing about Kang is, there's like 50 different versions of Kang, or like hundreds of them. Like you have the whole Council of Kangs and all that. So, and it could be like an older Kang coming in from a future point in his life, when he's kind of mellowed and he would work with the Avengers on occasion. Or it could be also, because don't forget, we got Cassie's now a teenager after Endgame. And so in the comic books, she became one of the members of the Young Avengers team, which also included Iron Lad, who was in reality a young Kang the Conqueror.
Right.
So that could also have something to do with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, okay. The more I heard it, like at first I said, okay, well, Kang, yeah, okay, well, I can see it. But then the more I thought about it, I said, yeah, Kang is a good way to bring him in. And don't forget, we still got Loki. He's out there with the time cube.
Right,
He's still out there bouncing around time too. So it could be a thing where Kang is saying, hey, listen, I'm not supposed to be the only one, bouncing around time. Who are these people coming in? And this could just be a way of bringing him in and establishing him as the big bad for this new, cycle of MCU movies that we're going to be getting.
Right. Yeah. And I'm really I haven't seen Majors. I don't think I've seen him in anything. I haven't seen Lovecraft Country yet. Have you?
Oh yeah, it's great. I love it. I haven't seen the latest episode. I've been hearing a lot of bitching about this last episode that was just aired this past Sunday. I haven't seen it yet, so I got to catch up on it and see what everybody's complaining about. But everybody complains about everything these days, so
yeah,
they do. So I get kind of slow about it. But yeah, a lot of people apparently this last episode of Lovecraft Country has got a lot of people up in arms.
Well, yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I'm looking forward to checking it out eventually when I get around to picking up what is it, HBO Max.
Yeah,
but and also looks like Wonder Woman got delayed again.
I don't know why they just didn't do, like we were saying in the last episode. The Fast and Furious, they just said, know what? We're just going to put it out next summer. And bing, bang, boom, that's it. And then you had Christopher Nolan. He insisted that Tenet be in the movie theaters and it was going to come out, and it turned out that didn't go over. That didn't save the movie theaters, they thought it would. Because, some people did go see it. And I do know some people that went to see it. And even the ones who went to see it, they were disappointed. They said they wish they had waited.
Yeah. I mean, that movie did not really seem to do very well.
No.
Like either critically or commercially, because like a lot of people are saying like, yeah, it's not really that good either.
Yeah, a lot. Like I said, I know some people that went to see it, and I said, oh, how was it? They said, nah, I wish I had waited. Or, I think Christopher Nolan and the studio probably would have did better either to wait until next summer. That's what I would have did with everything. No movies this year in the theater. We're gonna wait till next summer.
Or just do what like Trolls and Mulan did, like do the streaming model instead.
And just do the streaming thing, yeah. Even though Mulan didn't do that well, but that was more because of political stuff that was going on than the actual quality of the movie.
Yeah, although I did hear people say that the movie, people who did see the movie said it wasn't that great.
Yes, I know a couple of people also who saw Mulan, and they said that, yeah, it wasn't, because apparently this is more like a straight war movie, made for adults. It didn't have like, Eddie Murphy, and, so they said they were kind of disappointed.
Right. Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
regard. So I said, well, you know what? What can I tell you? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, what can I tell you?
I mean, it's weird that Disney's still going ahead with the live action remakes, because aside from the Jungle Book, not many of them have really been well received, have they? I can't think of. I don't know. I can't remember if Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella were well received, but like,
Beauty and the Beast was well received.
okay,
And know what? I actually like the live action better than the animated.
okay. I still haven't seen it, but I've been thinking about checking it out. So I think we'll
check it out. It's good. Yeah. It really is. I like Beauty and the Beast. Dumbo, I haven't checked it out yet. It did okay, but it wasn't the blockbuster that Disney thought it was going to be.
I completely forgot about Dumbo.
Yeah. Okay, this is the Tim Burton one.
Right, yeah.
It's got Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito in there.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize Michael. Oh, that's right. I do remember him from the trailer now. Yeah.
Right, and what's his name? Colin Farrell. He's in this too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's got an all-star cast. But I'm saying, from what I recall reading, it did okay business, but it didn't do the blockbuster business that Disney thought it was going to make. And I haven't seen it yet, although I've got Disney Plus. I just haven't watched it yet. What else in the live action thing? The Jungle Book. I saw the live action Jungle Book.
Jungle Book was good, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Now
that was really good, yeah.
I enjoyed that. Have not seen The Lion King. Have no interest in seeing it. I saw the animated version. I said, yeah, okay.
We saw The Lion King in the theaters, and it wasn't bad. Like, it was okay, but the problem is with those animals and stuff like that. Like, you're trying to do like CGI realistic animals, they can't really emote them.
Yeah.
So that was like, so that was kind of the problem with it. Is like none of the animals could really emote. Although I did like who was his name? John Oliver did the voice of Zazu, and I really liked him.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it. Like I said, I saw the animated version, and I'm okay with that. I don't need to see the live action. But yeah, they seem determined to go through their whole catalog and do these live action remakes. And I really don't know who. If they do it like they did like the Jungle Book, okay, I can see why, because it was different enough from the animated version,
right?
That okay, it may, but other ones I really don't understand. Unless, of course, it's just to make money.
Right, yeah. Well, we saw Aladdin was the other one, and we watched that one a few months back. And you know what?
How was that?
Like, a lot of people hated it, but I kind of liked it. I thought it was...
a lot of people kind of was really ragging on Aladdin.
No, I liked it, and I liked the actress they got to play Jasmine a lot. I liked the guy they got to play Jafar. I was really impressed with Will Smith. Like, I really liked that he... Just like Robin Williams, imbued the genie with his own personality in the animated version.
Yeah.
Will Smith wasn't trying to redo that. Like, he was doing his own version of the genie. And it worked pretty well, I thought.
Well, he's Will Smart. Let's face it.
Yeah. He's
not a dummy. And he's smart enough to know that there is no profit in trying to copy, Robin Williams. So he just did his own thing. So, yeah, I keep saying to myself, one day I'm going to get around to watching it on Disney Plus, because I do want to see it, because because like a lot of people really was like ragging on that movie. I said, but why?
I think it's just because the original has such, because a lot of those people I noticed were like my generation. So, we like Aladdin was like our first theatrical Disney movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's got to, and that movie resonated with a lot of kids. I remember.
It sure, yeah. And I think that's what it is. Because when I saw it, of course, I was an adult, when I saw it. So I was old and jaded. But yeah, I can understand. It's like the same thing like The Little Mermaid. It like resonated for a whole generation because it caught them at the right age.
Exactly, yeah. And,
yeah.
Well, actually, it was funny because afterwards, I watched it with my wife. And I don't know if she had seen the original Aladdin, or if she hadn't seen it, or if she just couldn't really remember it. But yeah, she was like, oh, I want to watch the original. So then we went on Disney Plus, we looked and we watched the original, like right after we watched the live action one. So I got to compare them back to back, and I'm just like, yeah, the remake's still pretty not bad. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I don't know, but see, unlike a lot of people, and I know, okay, this is where we lose 10% of our listeners. I don't freak out over remakes.
No, me neither.
You know, most people do, because first of all, a lot of our classic movies that we look at the Maltese Falcon. That's the one I always point to. The Maltese Falcon, the one that we love with Humphrey Bogart and everything like that. That was a remake of the same story.
Well, I mean, like, look at A Fistful of Dollars was a remake of Yojimbo, which was kind of a remake of what was that? I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a remake of a Dashiell Hammett book.
Oh, Red Harvest.
Red Harvest, that was it. Thank you.
Red Harvest, right? Exactly. You know, but people like really lose their shit over remakes, and like I tell them, I say, well, you know what? Broadway does remakes all the time, but they don't call it that. They call it revivals.
Right.
Like every 5 years or so, they bring back, My Fair Lady, or what is it? Or they bring back West Side Story or Oklahoma, and nobody freaks out over that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why do you freak out when they make a remake of the movie? Well, they're spoiling the. No, they're not. The original is still there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I've never understood that. And I see people like saying like, "Oh, leave it alone, leave it alone." I'm like, they're not damaging the original. The original's still there. They're not going to go and burn all the copies of the original and then piss on the ashes.
Yeah. It's just like, okay. I don't like a remake if it's done badly, but if it's done well, like say like the Peter Jackson King Kong. Now, he did it with a lot of love and affection for the original, and he put enough of a spin on it so that it wasn't the exact same movie. We would, So yeah, I mean, that's people today, Perry. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. But back briefly on the Nolan thing. You know what? I kind of cooled on Nolan after the 1-2 punch of Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar. After that, I was just kind of like, I still haven't seen Dunkirk. Just because, like, after those
Don't bother. I've seen Dunkirk. Okay, here's the thing. Dunkirk is not a bad movie, but it's not a particularly compelling one. Like, I felt like there was an emotional distance. I was never emotionally engaged with the movie. Okay. That's the best thing that I could put. Nolan is more interested in ideas than actually making his audience feel something, for what they're watching.
Yeah. And when it comes to, like, I noticed this after with The Dark Knight Rises, that his storytelling is not really good. Because The Dark Knight Rises, that plot is all over the place.
Oh my God! Don't let me get started on that.
But I think a lot of the big problem is that because he had so much success with like those trio of movies, right? There was The Prestige, there was Inception, and there was The Dark Knight, and then like his star just skyrocketed after those three. And I think he bought into his own hype a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Nolan believes his own hype now.
Yeah,
he done read too much of his own press, and he started to believe it. Inception, to me, is the Memento and Inception are still my favorites of his movies. Now, I can watch those over and over again. Especially Inception, because it was so well put together.
Yeah,
and you understood everything, which is what a friend of mine said about Tenet, in that he said that in Inception, you had the Ellen Page, right? She played a character that kind of like stood in for the audience.
Okay.
So you had, what's his name? He was explaining how dreams work.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. When he was explaining to her how dreams work and how the technology works, and by way of explaining it to her, was explaining it to us. Okay, he was saying that Tenet doesn't have, that type of character. So, you feel kind of lost. Yeah. But I mean, like Interstellar, I couldn't tell you what that movie was about if you put a gun to my head. And it wasn't like 2001 where you watch it and you don't get it. But you know something? You're okay with not getting it because you don't feel that you're not getting it because the director doesn't want you to deliberately not get it. It's just that the ideas he's dealing with is so huge.
Or like Mulholland Drive too.
Right, exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect example. Same thing. I didn't get that with Interstellar. I got the impression that Nolan just wasn't explaining everything because he didn't care to explain anything.
Yeah.
We're
That's
just
exactly
the
what I got
audience.
to.
Yeah, we're just the audience, and we're just supposed to sit there and be impressed by, the grandiosity of his concepts.
Yeah. I felt the same thing. Let's see. There's one other thing I think I wanted to mention in the news. Forget it. I can't remember it now. But so we'll just skip ahead. I did. I remember now. I saw the Dune trailer for the Dennis Villeneuve.
Yeah, I saw it too.
And looks pretty good. Like you and I, we both have we both make sci-fi fans cringe everywhere whenever we say this, but we could not get into the actual novel.
No. I know what, I can't even say that around Barry Reese anymore. He sends me dead rabbits in the mail. I can't say that shit no more around Barry because Barry loves Dune, and I always say, and I have a hardcover copy that I've had since the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
And every year I try to read two books. I try to read Lord of the Rings and I try to read Dune. This has been since the 70s, mind you. Mm-hmm. To this date, I still have not gotten past page 50 of Dune.
What about Lord of the Rings? Did you ever get anything?
They never finished that either. Page 50. If it was not for the movies, I would never find out how the story turned out.
It was funny. One of my friends, he was a huge Lord of the Rings fan, right? He read the books growing up, loved them. And one day he said to me, he's like, and we were talking, and I think we were talking about something. We were talking about movies or books or something, and we get onto Lord of the Rings. He's like, "Well, you've read the books, right?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "What? You haven't read the books?" He's like, "You have to read the books. The movies don't do it justice. You have to read the books." I'm like, "Okay, I'll read the books." So I bought the trilogy box set. I slogged through Fellowship of the Ring, and I talked to him, and he's like, "You know what? I rewatched the movies, the extended edition the other night," and he's like, and I've changed my mind. You don't need to read the books.
Yeah. I mean, you really don't need to read them.
Yeah.
And I've never read it. And mind you, I was around when there was a real cult around Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. Like in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
When it was really big, and it was like a cult thing. And if you said that you didn't read it, you would get strung up in the town square. That was like a book you had to read. Unfortunately, I think what the problem was that I had been introduced to heroic fantasy and sword and sorcery through Michael Moorcock and Robert E. Howard.
Right.
And
so the stuff where it's fantasy and they actually do stuff.
Right, exactly. And in comparison, Tolkien was just too slow. I'm sorry, So every year I make a crack. I still haven't read it yet. I just watch. I have to be happy with the movies.
I remember they're like all these elf songs or these Hobbit songs, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, just move on with the damn story.
Exactly. And after you've had Robert E. Howard with Conan going around all day killing and slaying monsters and stuff like that, and then at night drinking and wenching, you say, okay, yeah, this shit is pretty cool. Now I got to read about a bunch of hobbits, singing songs and nah, man.
No. All right,
please miss me with that bullshit.
Okay.
No disrespect to you, Lord of the Rings fan, because I don't want y'all coming after me because I know how y'all can be.
Yeah, but yeah, the Dune trailer looks good, and I'm one of the like the 5 people who like the David Lynch movie.
I liked it too. Matter of fact, something? It was very funny. I'm watching the trailer, and there's a lot. I could swear there's a lot of shots that's in the trailer that I recall seeing that it's exact shot in the David Lynch movie, or they seem very familiar to me.
Right. Yeah. So, I also rewatched 47 Ronin, the one with Keanu Reeves, because I'm teaching it in my class next week, or not next week, 2 weeks. But what surprised me is I actually. That was a movie that I actually liked too, but it was another movie that just got completely shat on by everybody.
I have no idea. I liked it myself. I saw it. I said, yeah, this is pretty good.
And I actually picked good timing because then after I watched it, I was going back online to check out reviews and stuff, and I found out that they're doing a sequel.
Oh, cool.
And it's going to be set 300 years in the future, and it's going to be a cyberpunk version of the 47 Ronin.
Well, you know what? Yeah, the 47 Ronin. Matter of fact, I saw they did a version of that with Clive Owen. And was it
Morgan Freeman. Yeah, Last Nights. Yeah,
right.
Last Nights. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was set in like kind of like this alternate medieval world and stuff like that.
Right, yeah,
but
yeah.
That story is kind of like the Seven Samurai in that you could do it like in any genre, in any time period, and it works.
Yeah, and in fact, there was, Hello Kitty even did like a line of like 47 Ronin figures and stuff like that.
See, yeah.
So yeah,
it's one of those stories. You could do the 47 Ronins in Vietnam War era, Cambodia.
Yeah.
You could do it in 16th century France.
Mm-hmm.
You could, you could do it it's that sort of story that lends itself to that you could do it in a variety of time periods and settings, and it still works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I hope they get Keanu Reeves back, because especially now after he's had his John Wick renaissance, I think that'd be really cool to see him in. Especially because he's in the Cyberpunk video game that's coming out soon.
And I'm so glad that Keanu Reeves, because you know what? For years and years, people ragged on Keanu Reeves for no other reason than apparently he was just Keanu Reeves. And I'm really glad he's enjoying a lot of success.
Yes, yeah.
Now, because you know what? He's always struck me as a guy that didn't take all this Hollywood shit too seriously.
No, like he's a real, like he lives like a very simple lifestyle. He lives in like a regular apartment. He rides the subway. And apparently like people who have worked on set with him, like the cast and like the crew and everything, every single crew member says that, a lot of the stars we work with, they're dicks. They think they're better than everybody else. Not Keanu. Like he comes in and talks to us. He asks us how our day's doing. He buys us lunch, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he donates most of his money to charity, and he's just like, I just kind of live a simple life.
Yeah, I mean, he's a down to earth guy.
Yeah,
he's a regular person, and I like that. I like that. He doesn't let all of that go to his head, and also I've read interviews where like he's really appreciative of the fact that shit. All I get to do is go. Really, I'm getting paid for playing dress up.
Yes, yeah. Did you see? He was in that movie, the Ali Wong movie on Netflix. Always Be My Maybe, I think it was called, with her and Randall Park.
No,
it was like this. It was this romantic comedy that Ali Wong. I think she directed. I don't know if she directed, but she starred in it. Randall Park was in it too, and there's this one part where her character ends up dating Keanu Reeves, and Keanu came in for like a day while he was shooting John Wick 2 or John Wick 3, one of them. And he comes in for like a day just to like play like this over-the-top fictional version of himself, and it was hysterical.
Oh man, I gotta see that.
It was good, and especially it's funny because Randall Park's character gets in a fight with him.
Uh-huh.
And then he, at the end of the movie, like they, spoilers, the two main characters get together at the end. But he's like an aspiring musician and stuff like that, aspiring DJ, and he says something. He's like, I bet these people would think I'm a lot more special if I told them that I punched Keanu Reeves. And she's like, well, you should tell people. And then so he wrote a song about how like I punched Keanu Reeves, and it plays over the end credits. Oh man, you got to check it out. It's hilarious.
Yeah, listen, if Keanu Reeves is in it, I'm down. Like I said, I really like him a lot because, and I'm glad to see that he is reaping the benefits of all of his years of hard work. Because he does put in a lot of hard work in his movie. I mean, I cannot think of a performance he was in where I could say, okay, well, he was just folded that in. He does seem very committed to what he's doing.
Yeah.
In every performance. And who knew that he was going to be our newest action hero?
Yeah. I mean, I never saw John Wick coming.
No, nobody did. I didn't think that. Yeah. That was one of those examples of something that just hit us out of the clear blue sky, and everybody just sat up and said, whoa.
Just like, it reminded me a lot of Taken in that way.
Yeah.
Taken, because I never would have pictured Liam Neeson as being an action star.
Oh no, never would. Although when you go back and you look at the totality of his career, he has been in like a lot of action orientated stuff. It's just we just never saw him, quite like that.
Right, yeah. It does make sense when you look at all his stuff, but it's just something, it's one of those things you just never expected.
No. I mean, who expected him to make a movie like that? Take it.
No.
And that was a massive hit.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I think now we might as well jump into the movie because I think I'm just trying to stall.
Yes, you are, and doing an excellent job of it. I might.
All right, so as we mentioned at the top of the show, this episode we're talking about The Spirit, Frank Miller's directorial debut. Because even though he was credited as co-director on Sin City, that was basically just because Robert Rodriguez, basically just took the panels from the comic book. So he credited Frank Miller as director because of that. But this is the first time Frank Miller is actually working behind the camera. And it's the last time, hopefully, as well.
Yeah, well, he never directed anything else after this.
No, after that, the phone stopped ringing.
Oh, yeah. But everybody said, okay, we can't trust him with.
No.
I think, okay, first of all, I had some people asking me, they said, well, Derrick, why would you, okay, why? Yeah, that's basically what they said. Why? And I said, well, you know what? I said, so far, Perry and I have just been talking about movies that we gush about them, and, we enjoy. I said,
and even the ones that we, don't really like that much, we still find good things to say about them. Like,
right,
Batman and
exactly.
Robin, or like last week when we talked about The Cobbler, or 2 weeks ago when we talked about The Cobbler. And yeah, we find stuff that we like about him. Because you and I, we're not the type of people who just like to do a podcast where we just shit on everything.
Right. And that was one of our mandates when we was doing this. We was doing it because we want to do movies that we enjoy, and we wanted to share that with people. We just don't want to come on here and just be, vomiting all over these movies and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I thought that The Spirit would be interesting in that it's a movie that, we can both agree on that it's universally hated. But my contention is that we can still learn something from a movie that is no damn good.
Yeah.
There's something we can learn from it. Yeah. And yet, there are a lot of things that I learned positively, believe it or not, from watching The Spirit,
Okay.
Especially now.
Okay.
First of all, I just like to say that this is when I realized how Frank Miller felt about his own subject matter. There is a fight scene near the beginning of the movie between the Spirit and the octopus, played by Samuel L. Jackson. And we think that they're fighting in mud. Up until when Samuel Jackson, out of nowhere, finds a toilet and slams it on the Spirit's head. And then I realized what they were actually fighting him.
Yeah.
That's how Frank Miller actually feels about his own movie, I think.
That was such a perfect metaphor for this movie, is just two guys rolling around in a pile of shit.
Yeah.
And it's like that whole scene, and even like when they literally throw the kitchen sink at him, I'm like, come on.
Yeah. From out of nowhere. Where did he find a kitchen sink?
I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm like, is this a junkyard? Is this and there's no sense of like there's no establishing in that scene, right? There's nothing to establish where they actually are.
Yeah, we have no idea where. It appears to be a swamp in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
For some reason that I can't fathom. But trying to make sense out of this one. First of all, you would have people argue, and quite rightly, that The Spirit, as created by the great Will Eisner, is actually not a superhero. He's more in the mold of those pulp characters from the 30s and 40s.
Right, yeah.
Now, I'm getting away with...
if I'm not mistaken, I believe I read somewhere that Eisner actually didn't intend to have him wear a mask at first. And but I think it was the publisher or someone said, well, you got to give him a costume. And so Eisner just drew the mask over his face. Like that is the costume.
I can see that because the mask is kind of really like, really there's no reason for him to wear that mask because it's so teeny and tiny. It's barely covering his eyes as it is.
Yeah.
You know, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but I mean, okay, as created by Will Eisner, his character is more of a pulp character from the 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I get away with saying this is a superhero movie because they actually do, Frank Miller actually does give the spirit a superpower in this movie, in the healing factor that he has, which explains why him and the octopus can have these meaningless fist fights that seemingly go on forever.
It's like something. It's like watching something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Well, that's what this movie is.
Yeah,
it's basically a Looney Tunes animated shit fest. It is. There's no other way to describe this movie. It is from start to beginning a bad movie.
Yeah.
However, there are some nuggets in this movie that can be appreciated. The performance of Gerald Macht, for instance, who plays the spirit.
Really? You like that? I did not.
Listen, I liked him. I liked him because you know what? He throws himself into this thing fearlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I never blame an actor for the script. They give him the script and they do the best they can with it. And that's what this guy did with it.
I mean, I just kept thinking the whole time, I'm like, you're trying so hard to be Christian Bale's Batman in these voiceovers, and it just his voice just keeps changing all the time, and it just never seems to make sense when he's using like the deep raspy voice and just his regular voice, and it just seems to switch on a dime with no reason.
Oh, I don't blame him for the voiceover either. I'm sure that was Frank Miller, because Frank Miller loves his voiceover.
Oh no, I'm saying but even when he's talking, like there are some times when he's talking in like the deep voice, and then it switches with no real reason to his regular voice.
Okay. I get. Oh yeah. Okay, like his actual voice when he's talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I will say this: I did like the eye candy because there's some nice eye candy in there. You got Eva Mendes wearing some some very revealing little outfits. You got Paz Vega in that belly dancer outfit. Whew.
Yeah.
That was I'm not complaining about those things at all. You had Scarlett Johansson, looking fine just as she always does.
Oh, absolutely. And her and Samuel Jackson actually do seem to be having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Going back and forth. Stupid as the characters are.
Yeah.
They're making it work. But yeah, there's a tremendous amount of talent in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say there is what's her name? The girl from American Horror Story, Sarah Paulson.
Sarah Paulson. You know what? Yeah. You know what I noticed about Sarah Paulson, which it just kind of hit me watching it this time, is that she's got this feel about her that makes her feel like she's from another time period.
Yeah.
She feels like an actress from like the 30s or 40s.
She does. You know what? I thought the same thing when I was watching this movie. She actually does look like she could have been in a movie alongside Katharine Hepburn or Betty Davis.
I feel like we got to check around for a wormhole or something to find out how she got here.
Yeah. She's very good, and everything I've seen her in, I love her. She's a phenomenal actress,
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, she's wasted in this movie, as is pretty much everybody else.
Oh yeah.
As much as they try,
mm-hmm.
and like I said, Eva Mendes. Okay, listen, you can't. Tom DJ hates her in this movie because he says that she's trying to imitate Raquel Welch.
Uh-huh.
He says, I don't know, I don't see it. But then when Eva Mendes is on screen, I have a hard time thinking. Period.
She's not a good actress at all. I would not say that, but she looks damn good.
She's damn good, and you know what? She has flair.
Yeah.
She has. Matter of fact, know who's a better actress? The girl who plays her character at a younger age is a better actress than her.
Yeah, Seychelle Gabriel. I was actually really impressed by her.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was a nice little bit in that in this otherwise crappy movie, mm-hmm. where you had this like kind of really sweet love story between these two kids, mm-hmm. that grow up and take different paths, of course. Yeah. That was kind of nice. And like I said, the girl that plays the young Sans Serif, she's a really good actress.
Yeah. I'm seeing what else she's been in. Oh,
And
she's in the Get Shorty TV show.
And I'd be interested in finding out if that beauty mark that she has is actually hers or if that was cosmetic they put on so she would,
It looks like it's cosmetics. I'm looking at a picture of her on IMDb, and she doesn't have it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So then it was cosmetic, but it was a nice touch.
It was a nice touch, yeah. And you know what I did? You know how we talked about you mentioned in the past how you like when they can cast actors who play like father and son or mother and daughter, and they actually look like each other.
Yeah,
they did a really good job casting her as a young Ava Mendes. Like she really looked the part. There's that one scene where like they cut between their two faces to show like and it looks so seamless.
It looks absolutely, yeah. I recall the scene that you're talking about. Yeah, and I love it when they go through that extra, the extra mileage to do that. I hate it when they have a movie and it's a character and then they do a flashback to when they was younger and that looks nothing like them.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I said, wait a minute. You spent all this money. You really mean you couldn't be bothered to go ahead and find somebody like what's that movie? Once Upon a Time in America. If you look at the kid actors, they look exactly like their counterparts, their older counterparts. They got a kid that looked exactly like James Wood. They got one that looked like Robert De Niro, Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard. At least I don't think it is. I don't make movies, so I don't know. But still, anyway.
But yeah, it looks like she was also in the Falling Skies TV show as well.
Oh, okay. I dimly remember that. That was like an alien invasion type of thing.
Yeah. So she was in Falling Skies. She's in Get Shorty. She was in a few episodes of Sleepy Hollow as well. It looks like, and she did one of the voices on Legend of Korra, which is the sequel to Avatar: Last Airbender. So yeah, she's got some work. She's in something else called The Tomorrow War that's coming out. You know what other actress I thought was entertaining in it was Stana Katic as Morgenstern.
Yeah. This was before she became a hit in that show with Nathan Fillion. Castle, yeah. Which to this date I've never seen a single episode of that.
I haven't either because it's never on any streaming service, so I've never seen it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But she comes into this movie and it's like she comes in and like most of the other actors in this movie, she takes this part in the spirit in which is given, no pun intended. Like she knows what type of movie this is.
Yeah.
And
which is more than Frank Miller apparently knew.
Okay, let me say this about Frank Miller, and this is something you and I have talked about both, and privately and on here. I am a very firm believer in that when you take a character too far away from the source material, it is no longer that character. That's why when people talk about, James Bond should be black, and I said, no, he shouldn't. Like people say, Batman should be black. I say, well, yeah, you can make Batman black, but you can't make Bruce Wayne black.
Right.
To me, there is a difference. People say, oh, no, well, it doesn't make, yes, it does make a difference because if you change a character's fundamental nature, it's not that character anymore.
Right.
That is what Frank Miller has done to the spirit. He has taken this character so far away from what makes the spirit, in that really what we have here is that we have an original character that should have been called, if he had called this character something else like the Black Ghost or, the Haunter or something, you know what? I probably would have liked this movie a lot more because then he would have acknowledged that this was because that's what this is. This is an original character. It really is. That he just slapped the spirit name on and he got away with it, I guess, because Will Eisner had passed away. And he claimed that they were these great friends that, and he would have loved this, and he was my, this is how you honor and respect your friend by taking this character that was his life's work. And
all right, so before we get too much into that, I wanted to first give people some context for what's happening here, and that's the whole thing about. Well, that's why I'm asking you to, because my dirty little secret here is I have actually never read a Spirit comic book.
Really?
I've never read anything with the Spirit. I was actually looking it up online last night on Comixology because I was thinking like, well, I should actually get around to reading some of this stuff, and they don't really have anything on there. So,
interesting.
So I want you to because I know you've read the Spirit stuff. So
yeah.
I want to know, give some context. What is the Spirit? What kind of character are we talking about here?
Okay, now they do get his origin right in this. The Spirit was his real identity is Denny Colt. He's a cop that works in Central City, and he goes after this criminal. I don't remember the name of the criminal. It wasn't the Octopus. The Octopus comes later on down the road. But he's after this criminal that has like this experimental acid that he's going to pour into the water. He's going to pour into the reservoir and kill everybody. So Denny Colt breaks in, they have a fight, he gets shot, and the acid spills upon him and it gets into his system. And he's pronounced dead, he's buried, but he digs out of his own grave as he does in this movie, because apparently the acid or whatever it was, it put him in a state of suspended animation. Okay, so he goes to Commissioner Dolan, who is a much better character in the comics than he is in this movie. I don't know where this character is.
Well, I mean, I should hope he's a better character in the comics.
Well, yeah, because Commissioner Dolan actually knows that he's Denny Colt, because Denny goes to him and says, well, you know what? I can do a lot more good remaining dead. And, me and you can work together, and I can go places and do things that cops can't do, And Dolan says, yeah, sure, fine, no problem. And that's when the Spirit is born. And but he's one of these very public crime fighters, because it's like, think 1960s Batman, where, like he's walking around in daylight and, and really, there's really like no difference in personality between the Spirit and Denny Colt. He's just Denny Colt with a mask.
Right.
Don't ask me why nobody else recognizes him, because he freely interacts with people like Ellen, who somehow doesn't realize that this is Denny Colt, So, but Will Eisner, and his stories were only 8 pages long, mind you. Some of them were straight up crime stories. Some of them were love stories. Some of them were stories that the Spirit didn't even appear in until maybe like the end. But they were like these little slice of life stories.
Right.
That he would tell about the city or people in it, or be like this character had no relationship to the Spirit at all. And by the end of the story, like I said, in the last 2 or 3 panels, the Spirit would show up. But combined with the artwork and with the storytelling, because Will Eisner took 8 pages to tell a story that comic book writers now, it takes them like a whole 96-page graphic novel to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot go, it would take me another hour to go into the detail about how Will Eisner is considered to be the father of that method of storytelling, that, where it's not rushed, it's not compressed, but it's, you would have to read it. That's all I have to say. You would have to read it to people who have read the Spirit, they're nodding right now. They're saying, okay, Derrick, I know where you're going with this, man. I know where you're going. You would have to you truly would have to read his work to properly appreciate what this man did with only 8 pages. You get to the end of a Spirit story, and sometimes you felt like you read a novel. Some of them were very uplifting spiritually and emotionally. Some of them were heartbreaking. Some of them were wildly hilarious. So it wasn't like a one-note thing like this movie that just hits one note and it stays on that, all grim and gritty. No. Spirit wasn't like that. It wasn't grim and gritty. Yeah, it was dark. Sometimes it got dark. Sometimes it got dangerous. But it was always done with a sense of fun and excitement.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you read the Spirit, you look forward to reading the Spirit. I read it during it was Warren Publishing started publishing like these black and white reprints of the Will Eisner, and that's how I was introduced to him. And I mean, I love them things. I still have them in storage somewhere. I think, all those old spirits that I have, because those are, like I said, classic stories, man. That's your homework assignment. Get a hold of the spirit and read it.
Yeah, I got to try and, I'm hoping they get I'm not sure if it's a rights issue or what, but I hope whatever it is, like that gets sorted out and they can get some stuff up on Comixology soon. Because the only thing I could find is there's like an 80th anniversary collection of like some select stuff, but it's not like a complete thing or anything.
For instance, okay, you take the octopus. Mm-hmm. Now, the octopus in this movie, of course, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and he's like this mad scientist type, and with all these guns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, in the stories, we never actually see the octopus's face. We don't know if he's white, black, European, Asian, or what. Yeah. The only thing you see of the octopus are those gloves with those 3 hash marks on, like those 3 marks on them.
Right, yeah.
That's all you ever see of the octopus. He's a total man of mystery. Yeah, he's not. So, like I said, that's why I'm saying this is an original creation of Frank Miller, because this octopus is a totally original creation. He didn't have, the slinky Scarlett Johansson for his own henchwoman. He didn't. Yeah, more often than not, the octopus is killing off his hench people. But yeah, totally different.
Now here's the thing. All right, so thanks for giving us that context. Now to talk about Frank Miller's relationship with this project. So Eisner was apparently very protective of the rights to the spirit, but he believed in the producers to faithfully adapt it. So that was like Michael Uslan, Benjamin Melniker, and Stephen Meyer. And so Eisner trusted them to do it. And, Eisner passed away, and at a memorial service in New York, this was in 2005, it was a few weeks after Sin City had come out, the movie. And Uslan approached Frank Miller at the memorial service. And he said he was interested in, using the kind of techniques they used in Sin City for the spirit. And Miller he said, I don't think I can do this. He said, it's too big. I can't possibly do it. And he refused. And then a few minutes later, he says, as I was at the doorway, I turned around and said, nobody else can touch this. And I agreed to the job on the spot. Now, the thing I don't get is if your whole thing was you want to preserve, your mentor's legacy and make sure that someone who actually cares about this property adapts it, why would you turn it into this pile of shit?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I've never read the Spirit comics, but even I can tell that is not the fucking Spirit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's the popular theory that I've heard is that Frank Miller wanted to do Sin City, but since he couldn't do Sin City, he turned the Spirit into Sin City.
But this came out after he got the job after Sin City.
This came out.
Yeah, this came out because Sin City came out in 2005. This came out in 2008, and it was a few weeks after Sin City had premiered that Uslan approached Miller about directing it.
Right. But what I'm saying is that he basically turned the spirit into Sin City.
Yes, that I can agree with.
Yeah, that's the popular theory that I've heard. That, as happy as he was with Sin City, he still felt that he could have did it better if he had directed it. So that's what he did.
That he should not have even tried.
So that's what he did. He basically turned the spirit into his version of Sin City, which, I mean, there could not be two concepts more further apart in tone and the style and the character than the spirit in Sin City.
This made me think as I'm watching it. I kept thinking of there are two properties that kept coming to mind. One was Sin City, the other one was The Crow.
Yeah,
and that's what it is. This is The Crow in Sin City.
Exactly. Yeah, you hit it right on the head.
And I don't know. I really wish Frank Miller would stop trying to write Noir voiceovers because he can't do it.
No. The voiceover. People complain about the voiceover in Blade Runner, the pseudo noir voiceover in this one makes the voiceover in Blade Runner seem like Norman Mailer.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's that, I don't know. You know what? Frank Miller writes like he thinks tough guys talk, like he's never been around tough guys and like hear how tough guys really talk or have any idea how to. He's got his whole conception of tough guys from those 1930s, 40s, black and white, Warner Brothers gangster and noir movies. That's his whole world set. That's his whole mindset.
You know what? About 2 or 3 years ago, I rewatched Sin City for the first time in like a decade. And I'm rewatching it and I'm like, this is actually not that good.
Really? I haven't seen Sin City in years.
Yeah, it's just like we were all so amazed and blown away by it, but when I sat down and I rewatched it, I'm just like, this is not aged well at all.
I think that actually okay, I don't know about anybody else, but this is me. I was more blown away by the look of Sin City than the actual story.
I think all of us were.
Yeah,
I think all of us were. Because sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say the only story that really blew me away was the one with Mickey Rourke.
Oh, The Hard Goodbye, I think it's called.
Yeah,
that was the only one. And like all the other, and you know what I realized too, especially the one with Bruce Willis's character, that Yellow Bastard, I think it was. Yeah,
right. That Yellow Bastard. Yeah, I mean
that story is so incomprehensible. It doesn't make a lick of sense.
Well, you know what? Okay, when you really look at it, you're looking at it as that the Bruce Willis character had an infatuation for this little girl that he never really consummated, if you know what I mean. Because he rescued her when she was a little girl and then she grew up, right?
Yeah.
If I remember right. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it. We ought to put Sin City on our list for the future. But I know myself, I was looking at it, and quite literally, I had never seen a movie that looked like Sin City before.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same thing with The Spirit. There's a scene that's in the beginning where he gets the phone call and he says, okay, well, I'm on my way. And then he puts on his clothes and then he's bouncing over the rooftops and he's running across the wires. And I'm saying, oh my God, this is like a living comic book.
Yeah.
And it's dazzling. Visually, it's dazzling.
Yes.
I mean, I love the look of this movie, first of all, because it's trying to look like Sin City.
Yeah.
And like Sin City, it's something that I had never seen before. And, after years and years of seeing movies, seeing something that looked like this was like, I felt like I was looking at a movie from an alternate Earth. And that's the impression that I get when I look at The Spirit. Visually, I mean, I like looking at it.
Yeah.
I only wish that there was some kind of story and characters to go along with the impressive visuals.
And a story that even makes any sense, because they're after when they brought in the whole thing where he's like, we're after the blood of Heracles. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and the whole thing, the octopus talk about, we're going to be a god, and you and I are just alike, and all this kind.
And they got the clones who always have names that end in OS, and there's that one clone where it's just a foot with the head on top.
Yeah.
And even the octopus is like, I don't know. This is weird, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, no fucking shit, it's weird.
Yeah, and I love how Scarlett Johansson, she's just like so over this. She's just so bored. He says, isn't this weird? And she says, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I give them a lot of credit, though. There's a scene where Sam Jackson is wearing a Nazi uniform. And I give him a lot of credit for, doing that, because that's kind of like a touchy image, a black man wearing.
I was thinking the same thing. I was wondering, like,
Nazi,
And it was even his eyebrows were like in the SS logo.
Yeah.
And he's got the SS, like he's got it tattooed on the back of his head or something, or it's shaved into his hair or something like that.
Yeah. That's kind of a touchy image,
Yeah, yeah.
but if there's one thing that we know about Samuel Jackson, that quite often he don't give a fuck.
No,
I
no.
mean, that's just the way to put it.
As long as
He
he's
don't.
getting his paycheck, he'll.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like I said, you know what? He throws himself into this movie just like everybody else does. He just goes along with it. He says, "Well, okay, well, I'm getting paid for this, so what the hell?" And it does seem like he's having a good time, and Scarlett Johansson is having a good time. Everybody except for the guy that plays Commissioner Dolan.
Yeah.
Who goes through this movie like he's constantly constipated, mentally and physically.
Yeah, Dan Lauria is his name.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest problems with this movie is, aside from the fact that it's not even close to being The Spirit, is I don't even know if Frank Miller knew what kind of movie he was directing. Because this feels like, sometimes it feels like it's supposed to be parody. Sometimes it feels like it's supposed to be, serious neo-noir. Sometimes it feels like it's supposed to be, like comic book. It doesn't know what it is.
It does, yeah. He doesn't know, yeah, because there are some lines of dialogue, there's some exchanges between the characters, like the Spirit after Ellen patches him up, and they're supposedly having this allegedly romantic conversation. And I'm saying Frank Miller has no idea how men and women talk to each other.
No.
And I said, okay, well, maybe it's supposed to be a satire. Because you're right, there are a lot of scenes that make you think, okay, well, this is supposed to be a satire. I'm not supposed to be taking this entirely seriously. And I think that if he had followed that tone, this movie would have worked a lot better.
And if it wasn't The Spirit. If it was something else.
The Spirit, right, yeah. If it was, if he had called this character anything else. Like I said, I think, having grown up, read the actual Spirit comic books, I totally reject the notion that this is the Spirit in anything but name. If he had called his character anything else, like I said, we call him the Black Ghost. If you call him the Haunt, the Night Wrangler, anything, but I think I would have just sat back and said, okay, well, this is just a stupid ass movie. And I could have enjoyed it on that level, but such a bastardization of such a beloved character is something that I really, leaves a very foul taste in my mouth. Because, okay, you do have scenes of violence in the original Spirit comic because he takes a lot of punishment. But the violence in this movie is so unnecessarily violent. It's violent that, it doesn't, like, there's one scene where, like, he pounds the octopus like 30 times. Like in the head. And it's a scene that just, like I said, their fight scenes just go on and on and on for no reason at all.
Yeah, and that goes back to the whole cartoonish aspect we were talking about. Like, that feels like especially when like the Nazi eagle falls on the octopus.
Yeah,
I mean, I could see that happening to like Bugs Bunny.
Right. And when you have two characters that, okay, you firmly established that they can't kill each other, then what's the point?
Yeah.
And they're always, okay, then they're all the time threatening to kill each other when they know they can't kill each other.
And there's also the way that fight ends where he's just like, okay, we're done here. And I'm just like, what is even happening here? It's like, this is just something they do every week, every Friday night. They just jump into a shit pool and beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah. And matter of fact, going back to the Looney Tunes thing that you made, there's one of my favorite Looney Tune cartoons is there's a sheepdog and there's a wolf. And we see them in the morning, they get up and, they have their coffee and they brush their teeth and they get up and they go to work and they both punch a time clock and they know each other by name and they're talking to each other like best friends. And then they go do their respective jobs. The wolf is trying to eat the sheep and the sheepdog is trying to protect the sheep and they're beating the shit out of each other all day long. And then at 5 o'clock, the whistle blows and then they go back and they punch out and they go back to being friends. That's kind of the relationship the Spirit and the octopus have in this movie.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm just like, also his apartment, right? When he gets the call in the beginning of the movie and he's walking through his apartment and it's just like this, I know you're supposed to be legally dead, but does that mean you can't have any furniture in your damn house?
Yeah. In the comic books, he actually, because what happens is that he takes the insurance, somehow Commissioner Dolan, because I think he made Commissioner Dolan his beneficiary in his will or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Commissioner Dolan gives him the money. And yeah, he fixes up a whole apartment in, the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
He does, but it is an apartment. I mean, he's got a kitchen, he's got a den, he's got, like a bedroom and stuff like that. Yeah, if you look at this, all he has is cats in there.
Which also, I did not understand why.
Yeah.
Because he's not actually dead. So at first I thought it's like some sort of supernatural thing, like, that whole cats attracted to supernatural type stuff, or like the undead or all that. But that's not even the case here.
And as a matter of fact, it's kind of abandoned later on.
Yeah.
I think that Frank Miller just threw that in there just because it looked cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a scene where, the spirit is bouncing over the rooftops and everything like that. And one of the cats is following him.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a conversation with one of the cats later on.
Mm-hmm.
When he's remembering his whole romance, when he was a kid with Sand. And he's talking to the cat. And then after that, we never see the cats anymore.
Yeah.
So. It's like they were just thrown in, for the... But then again, as you so accurately pointed out, and I freely admit, there is much about this movie that makes absolutely no sense at all.
Nothing. No.
It's shit that's just thrown in here. Like you said, okay, Plaster of Paris. My God, I love looking at her. But there's no... Okay, why is a belly dancer an assassin? And where did the octopus get her?
Yeah.
She's like, she's just like airlifted in from this other movie and just dropped in here.
Yeah. And I have, again, you're right. She looks great in that scene. She looks, I got some very strong Selma Hayek vibes from Dusk Till Dawn from that scene.
You know something? When I first saw this movie, I thought that was Selma Hayek.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. Is that Selma Hayek? And I was looking at her, and I said, "Wait a minute, is that her? Or is that not? Yeah?" There's a very strong resemblance.
Definitely, yeah. But you're right. There's like no real reason for it to be in this movie. I also didn't understand what was the whole thing with the spirit being a womanizer. That just didn't seem to make any sense at all.
Well, that comes because I think okay, all of the women that are in this movie, they were characters in the actual, comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Because much like James Bond,
mm-hmm.
Women seem to have a thing, for this, which even Octopus comments on. He said, "What is it with you and women?" Yeah. So there's like a lot of beautiful women that are in the Spirit's cast of characters. Some of them
mm-hmm.
are reoccurring characters that come in and out of his life. But yeah, they are all. So yeah, that's where that comes from.
Okay, it just didn't really seem to fit in this movie.
Yeah,
because it just makes it so confusing, right? It's like, is he? Because they don't even do any good job of establishing a love triangle. Like I think that's kind of what they're trying to get at with the thing between the Spirit and Sand and Ellen, but it never really goes anywhere, and it's completely muddled by the fact that he's flirting with all these other women at the same time. And it seems like, Frank Miller just wanted to throw all the characters into this movie that he could.
To be honest, the only real romance that's in this movie is the one between the Spirit and the Octopus.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
Yeah, they're the ones who have the real. Yeah, they're the ones that. Ellen is just like a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Because, he's going from, because, they're getting ready to do the horizontal bop in her office before her father breaks in. And he comes in, and as soon as he comes in with, what's the name, Lieutenant, what's the name, played by Stana?
Morgenstern.
Yeah, Morgenstern. So he turns around, he starts flirting with Morgenstern.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, he's kissing her hand, and he's, and he's making the goo-goo eyes at her, and she's making goo-goo eyes at him, and and then you got Commissioner Dolan. Even him is saying, "Damn, dude, like right in front of my daughter, really?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, but the real romance in this movie is between the Spirit and the Octopus. Trust me, because they're the only two people in this movie that seem to have real feelings for each other.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they're beating up on each other is just, foreplay.
Yeah, I think this movie is, I think, pretty symbolic of how Frank Miller has jumped the shark because, like I said, he doesn't know if he's doing Frank Miller or if he's doing parodies of Frank Miller these days, and it's so nobody really knows. I don't even think he knows.
Yeah, from everything I understand, Frank Miller pretty much is like some of his fuses have blown and he has not replaced them.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I had grave doubts about where he was going when I remember he was supposed to be doing that thing about Batman was taking on Al Qaeda.
Oh God,
And
yeah, the Holy Terror.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he had to change that. DC like, nah.
Yeah, they're
Frank,
like, we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. We're not doing that. So yeah, but this movie, I think, is just another link in that chain of mental. How can I put this and be kind? Mental decline.
There's no way to put it in a kind way.
Yeah, because I do not understand. I cannot see somebody who maintains as much as he does how much he loved Will Eisner and how much he loved the Spirit, and then he turn around and makes this movie.
Yeah, it's
I don't see how you do that.
no, definitely not.
That would be like if I died and you took Dylan and you transmogrified him into what you think he should be, instead of saying, well, you know what, I'm going to continue writing this character just the way that Derrick would.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Instead of saying, well, you know what, he's mine now, so I'm going to do whatever I want with him.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Which is pretty much what Frank Miller did here.
Oh, yeah.
He took the space of, well, he's dead, he can't complain. Which is, I'm sorry, folks, I don't want to presume to know the mind of the man, but all I can go by is the evidence of what I see.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the evidence is not favorable to Frank Miller.
Exactly. It's not. It's like, well, he can't do anything about it because he's dead. So what the hell?
Yeah. Just off. Like, I think without a hands down, the worst movie we've watched since we started this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is without a doubt. And you know what? I am a person, I'm kind of an optimist. I try to find the good in everything and like you said, even the movies that we don't like, all that, we found something good about it.
Right.
I can say truly and honestly let me try to find something good to say about this. If you like Sam Jackson in full-blown Sam Jackson mode, cussing and acting crazy and everything, yeah.
Oh, wild-eyed and crazy. Yeah, he does that really well.
He does that. Yeah, he's in full-blown. If you want to see him and Scarlett Johansson together having a good time, yes. Okay, this is the movie for you.
If you want to see Paz Vega and Eva Mendes looking really sexy, then yeah,
there's plenty of eye candy. Matter of fact, yeah, there is a magnificent shot of Eva Mendes' naked behind in this movie.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean,
that just reminded me of something else when she leaves the photocopy of her ass.
Yeah.
And he's going around to the hotel showing it to the.
Yeah. He's going around saying, "Have you seen this ass?" Because apparently she's very proud of her ass.
Apparently, yeah. Well, I mean, she's got good reason to be. Let's be honest.
Yes, she does. She has great reason to be. So this movie has great eye candy. Again, as I said earlier, if you like Sin City, yeah, you'll like this because the visuals are terrific. I mean, visually, this movie is a knockout. But unfortunately, those are the only things that I can say good about this movie. The story is all over the place. It makes and like you said, they bring in this whole thing like the blood of Hercules and what? Well, which has absolutely nothing to do with. There is so much in this movie that has absolutely nothing to do with Will Eisner's spirit.
You know, we haven't started the videos yet, but if we were doing this this on video, you would see me just like shaking my head in disbelief right now.
Yeah. There is so much that has absolutely nothing to do with Will Eisner's spirit. He doesn't even dress like the spirit. He dressed all in black.
Yeah.
You know, the spirit dressed.
And
in
also,
blue.
I couldn't understand what was the up with him wearing the gym shoes too. Is that something from the? I don't think that's from the comics.
No, the gym shoes with the light up soles.
Yeah.
Because I know that apparently Frank Miller loved those light up soles because he kept showing them.
And you know, I think it seems to be something that's happening. I noticed with some of his later work is Frank Miller loves drawing superheroes wearing gym shoes. I don't know why, but like in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, Carrie Kelly has become Catgirl instead of Robin, and she goes through like, you know, a dozen different outfits, and each time she's wearing gym shoes with them. The new costume that the Barry Allen Flash gets in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, it's got gym shoes on it. It's like, I don't know, but he's developed some weird fixation on superheroes wearing gym shoes. I don't know why.
Yeah. And it carries over here too. I mean, you know, like you said, because the spirit, that's what he wears, you know.
Yeah.
And like I said, there are plenty of shots in here that's what he's wearing, gym shoes.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, wait a minute. There's even like an extended period where he's going around barefoot, and Frank Miller makes a big deal about the fact that he's walking around barefoot. I'm saying, well, what does this mean in the context of the movie?
Yeah, we have no clue.
No clue whatsoever. No clue. The only thing that I can say is that, I am pleased that this movie went nowhere.
Yes.
And Frank Miller never got to make another movie. And there are very few directors that I would say that about, because I believe everybody should be given a second chance. But I am glad Frank Miller did not have another chance. That's not to say that he doesn't know where to put the camera at and how to film like action scenes and stuff like that. Because there's a bunch of action scenes in here that he does film quite well.
Mm-hmm.
To be, you know, to give him something to do. Yeah, he does know how to put a camera and let the actors do their thing. He does. Yeah. He's not trying to be like all stylish and, you know, put these meaningless visual flourishes in there that, you know, don't mean anything. You know,
it seems like he did learn a few things from Robert Rodriguez.
Yes, he did. He did because if I did not know that this was not directed by Robert Rodriguez, I would probably say it was, because it's very much in his style. Because Robert Rodriguez does that too. He knows how to put the camera down and let the actors do what they do, and that's what Frank Miller does. It to give him his credit. He does that. He's not into the flashy visuals just for the sake of being flashy,
right?
You know.
But you know what? And I see what you're saying there, and I think Miller's problem is he needs someone to rein in his excesses, because like he really needs a co-director, because someone's got to rein him in on this stuff, and he shouldn't be writing the screenplays he directs either, because he wrote this screenplay and it shows, because there's so many Frank Millerisms in it.
Yeah, and also, you know what, I don't think that just because, okay, like I know like some people that say, okay, well, if I can write a comics script, I can write a screenplay.
No.
Well,
but you know, the thing is,
necessarily, you know.
But see, the thing is, Frank Miller proved this already, because he wrote the scripts for RoboCop 2 and 3.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so I'm just like, yeah.
The skill. I don't think that necessarily the skill set in one area of writing carries over into another one. Like just because you can write a novel does not automatically mean that you can write a comic book script or write a screenplay.
Yeah. And I'm someone who knows this, because I have written all three, and they are very, very different skill sets.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I know that you've written all three, so I know that you would know exactly where I was coming from with this.
And there's so much that people don't consider when they're, because when you're writing a novel, and you know this because we've worked together on adapting one of your stories into a comic script, one time years ago, and like when you're writing a novel, you can just go nuts with the dialogue, with the descriptions, with the inner monologuing, right? You have no restrictions. Like a novel is actually like the freest form of writing you can do.
Right.
But a movie script is more restrictive because you can't describe things in too much detail, because then you're taking stuff away from the director, you're taking stuff away from the actor. You have to be willing to let a lot of things go. And also you have to adhere to you got to keep the pacing up. You got to keep it to the structure that a movie demands. And it's a very different thing. Novels can meander. They don't really have to have a structure, but movies need that structure. Comic books, even more so, because with a movie, you've got leeways with time and with running time and all that. But comic books don't. Comic book, you've got 22 pages, boom, that's it. There's only so much, literally, you can physically fit on a single page. And the more panels you have, the less dialogue you can have, right? The more action you want to have, the less dialogue you want to have, because you don't want to cover up all that action. So you have to be very careful about how you place all that stuff. And it takes a lot of juggling when you're writing a comic book script.
Yeah, and see, the thing about that, okay, the one thing that I find so fascinating is that when you write a comic book, it's truly a collaborative thing, because you have to leave something for the artist to show. Right. There's no point in you describing something that the artist is gonna, draw. You have to rely on him to show a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, you should just write dialogue and that's it, and just let the artist. Well, here's the dialogue. You just go nuts.
Well, there are some people who do that, but you have to really trust your artist to be a really good visual storyteller to do that. Like that's the problem. Exactly. And so if you're like, that's how Stan Lee worked, right? He would give them like a 2-page plot outline. He'd give it to Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko, and they go out and draw 22 pages. Then Stan would go back and write the dialogue. That's how Stan was able to write so many damn comics every month. Because he was doing a shorter form. He wasn't figuring out how to lay out all the panels and all that. He wasn't doing any of that stuff. He was writing in what he called the Marvel method.
Which to me seems like the best way to do it myself. Yeah, listen.
In some ways, but it depends on how much control you as the writer want over the comic book, and also depends on like how good your artist is at. Because Warren Ellis, I remember years ago in when he had a weekly column or something on the website, and he had talked about this, and he had talked about how the different styles of writing comic books, and he talked about the Marvel style, and he talked about the full script style, and he said the Marvel style is great if you have an artist that you have a really good rapport with, who is a really good visual storyteller. But if you guys haven't worked together before, if you don't really know what that artist's strengths are, then you're going to want to go full script, because otherwise, if you're not specific, you don't know what your artist will put in there. And next thing you know, you get back 22 pages that are nothing like the story you wrote. So yeah, you do have to have, there are careful considerations to be had with that.
That's understandable. I mean, like I said, every medium has its own master that it has to serve.
Yeah.
And comic book, I guess maybe that's why I've never even attempted to try to write a comic book script. Okay, you made a very good point earlier that with a novel, you can just about go ahead and just do whatever you want to do, because my first drafts are very sloppy things, because I tend to like go off on tangents.
Right.
And I put in scenes and dialogue that have absolutely nothing to do with the story I'm telling, which is why usually I end up like I'll have a first draft of like 300 pages, and I will literally lose half of that, because it's got nothing to do. It has absolutely nothing to do with the friggin' story I'm telling. It was just me having fun and entertaining my brain, and and okay, well, let me see where this scene goes, and it goes nowhere. I said, that's okay. I'm going to take it out later on. Now, some people may say that that's a waste of time. Well, no, not exactly, because a lot of that stuff ends up getting recycled into other work anyway.
Right.
But, that's the way, after many years of, trial and error. That's the way I found it work. Now, screenplays, a lot of people compare them, to comic books.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right when you say that, with a comic book, you only have like 22 pages, bam.
Mm-hmm.
And once that comic is printed, you can't edit it, or, supposedly it's already edited before it goes out.
Yeah.
You can have a movie and you can have like 3 or 4 hours, and you can edit that down to like a manageable story.
Right.
Whereas you can't do that with, like a comic book.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And because they're expecting 22 pages to begin with.
Yeah.
So they're not expecting extra pages that they can then pick and choose.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When you deliver you're delivering 22 pages and that's it.
Yeah. And
it's
also,
like
and it's very hard to like change, like even with, with digital technology and all that, like a lot of comics are produced digitally anyway. So yeah, theoretically you could move panels from one page to another, but there is a problem with that because there is a flow to each page when when the artist has laid out the panels and designed it to be read a certain way.
Right. Even with, like a movie, like now what we're seeing all these director's cuts. Come on, where the directors say, well, that's not my movie. Here's my movie. I heard that Stallone was even doing a director's cut of Rocky 3, for God's sake.
Oh,
yeah. I have no idea if that's serious or not, but I've read it in a couple of places. I'll say, wait a minute, this has got to be a joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, you're right. It is and it's like, also with a comic book, as a writer, you've got a little bit more freedom. You've got a little bit more, not freedom, more control than you do because a script writer, as a writer, you're the ultimate authority on a comic book, right? Same thing with a novel. You're the ultimate authority on it. And that they're alike. But with a movie, the writer is not the ultimate authority. The writer is just the first step in the process. The director is the ultimate authority. And the director can say, we're not going to do this, we're going to do this. And the actors have the ability to interpret the words how they want to be. Like you can give, as a writer, you can give some direction to the actors, but you don't really want to do that too much because then you're going to piss off the director, you're going to piss off the actors because they got their own interpretation of how they want those lines to be interpreted.
Matter of fact, okay, you will hear people complain all the time about, oh, well, this movie is bad, this movie bad, this movie bad. The thing that never fails to amaze me is how many good movies we actually do get, considering how many people have input into the final product.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many good movies we actually do get because everybody wants to put their fingerprint on it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, you broke it down, because, of course, you got the actors. They said, well, my character wouldn't say that. And you're the writer. And you said, well, how do you know? I wrote the character. Yeah, but it's not your character anymore. It's
exactly.
my character. Yeah. And then you got the director, he's saying, listen, I'm the big toe on this foot. What I say goes. And then you got the producer, he comes in and says, well, I'm putting up the money, so I want this done. Oh, and by the way, can you find a role for my girlfriend over? Yeah, it's amazing how many good movies we actually do get out of this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's all I basically have to say about that. But yeah, going back to the trust thing you mentioned, we were talking about before about the art. Like, I know if you and I were to work on a comic, for instance, first off, you wouldn't even be writing a script for me to go off of.
Nah.
But second, like, I would be able to, I'd take that story and you would trust me to interpret that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because we've known each other long enough. You know, like, my style, I know your style. So we would be able to, we'd have that kind of rapport. We'd be able to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, a lot of writers wouldn't have that option, a lot of writer and artist teams, so they would have to use, at least for the first few issues, they would have to do full script. And then as time goes on, and I've seen writers and artists talk about this, like, you started off giving lots of description and stuff in the panels, and then after I got a feel for their style, we kind of pulled back a little bit, right? And I started giving them less in the script.
You know what I think it is also, too? I think also that ego plays a lot into it too, because especially with writers, because writers don't want anybody to touch their words. You got to do this exactly as I want. A lot of it, especially when you're coming into a collaborative process, you have to put down your ego. You really
Yes.
do. Because you know what? You're not going to get everything your way. If you want everything your way, then you learn how to write and draw so you can do it exactly the way you want it done.
Or you just stick to novels.
Right, exactly, or stick to novels. Or even like, for instance, a collaborative thing, even like this podcast. We have to agree on a lot of stuff because it's not just you, it's not just me.
Right.
You know, and I don't think a lot of writers are able to do that. They're not able to put down their ego and say, okay, well, you know what? It doesn't have to be my way all the time. You know, I'm doing this with somebody.
Yeah, and we both had that experience in the past where we've worked on projects with other people, and ego did get in the way. And
oh God,
yeah,
I could tell stories, but I'm not going. I'm not going to because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But yeah, let me just say that there's some people that I will never work with. Because, and know what? Let me say it. It's not because I don't like them. You know, there's some people. Some will maybe listen to this. I love them tremendously. I like them tremendously. I love their work. But having dealt with them personally and stuff like that, I just know that you know what? We can't work together.
Some people some people, it's a different kind of dynamic. Like there are some people that I work really well together, but you know, you tell me, do I want to go and hang out with them, have a beer with them? Fuck no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are also people that, you know, I get along with amazingly well, that I love spending time with them. I love hanging out with them. Would I ever work with them on something? Fuck no.
Right. I wouldn't work with them. Exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't. No. What? No. Nope. I mean, and I have had people that have asked me to collaborate with them or something. And I've said to them, I said, listen, you know what? We're friends. We've been friends for a while. I want us to stay friends.
Yeah.
I don't think we should. I don't think this is a good idea for us.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of them took it in the spirit in which it was intended. And some of them didn't, but that's okay. You know what? I'd rather do it that way than get into something and that wastes their time and my time. And on top of that, ends up with bad feelings.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, we're not friends after that. Nah, it's not worth it.
Okay, so I think we pretty much said all we had to say about.
That having been said, I hate your guts, and this is my last episode.
I knew that. Isn't that my line? Because you made me watch this piece of shit movie.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. All right. So that now that we finally got that out of the way, do you have anything else to say about The Spirit?
I have nothing to say about The Spirit, only that if you do decide to see it, I strongly advise that you find some way to watch it for free. Do not pay any money at all to see this thing if you're at all curious about it. But I suspect that most of you listening to this podcast, you have already seen it, or you have heard from friends that you trust that you shouldn't see this. And
they would be right.
Yeah, and they would be right. I mean, if you're home and you really can't find anything else to watch, or not in the mood to watch anything else,
and if
you're just curious.
I mean, even in that case, I would still suggest paint drying over this movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of other stuff that you can, go watch The Wild Bunch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go watch Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
I mean, if you really need something to do, I mean, you could use a root canal. Just saying. Yeah. I mean, this movie is the best thing that I could say about this movie. Like I said, the visuals. You got Sam Jackson, Scarlett Johansson, Eva Mendes, Paz Vega, a whole bunch of the visuals. But outside of that, there's nothing about this movie that I can say would be worth your time. Yeah, unless you find it entertaining to watch Frank Miller slowly lose his mind year by year.
Yeah. I mean, really, out of all the superhero movies that I have seen, and I know that a lot of y'all dump on Batman and Robin, but at least Batman and Robin is entertaining.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is the movie that's an hour and a half, and it feels like a mini series.
God, it felt so long. I was saying this before we started recording, but at one point I got up, I hit pause, went to the bathroom, and I came back, and I checked the timer on my TV, and I'm like, there's still 45 minutes left in this movie. I was like, how?
He said, holy shit, how long is this thing?
And I finished that movie, and I'm like, oh my God, that was like 6 hours long. And then I look at the timer, and it says, oh, it's an hour and 30 minutes. I'm like, no, you're fucking lying, TV.
Whereas you have a movie like Once Upon a Time in America, which is almost 4 hours long. And to me, it seems like an hour and a half.
Or like Avengers Endgame, too. Like I can watch that movie on repeat. And I have, because I was on a plane when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched that damn thing on repeat.
Yeah, that movie's what, like 3 hours long? Three and a half
hours long, yeah.
3.5 hours long, yeah. And I watch it, and it feels like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It just flies by.
Yeah.
This, on the other hand, is an unforgiving slog of a movie.
You think a guy who has written comics all his life and who has written well-paced comics would know a little bit something about story pacing, but no.
Well, like I said before, the skill set in one area doesn't necessarily transfer over to, the other.
Yeah, and Frank Miller is living proof of that.
Yeah, because I mean, like what's that one he wrote with the samurai in the future?
Ronin. Yeah.
Yeah, Ronin. I mean, that's a Kurosawa movie on paper if I ever saw one.
Yeah.
That's pace one, great pacing. But this one,
I got to actually read that one of these days. I got to pick up the trade next time it comes on sale.
Oh, you never read it?
I never read it, yeah.
Oh, I think I'm surprised given your interest in the culture.
I am too, actually. Because it's one of those things, it's just like it's always been around. It's always like, I got to get around to reading that at some point, and just never got around to it for whatever reason.
Oh, okay. Well, that's understandable. There's a lot of stuff out there. So out of Miller's work, you've read the Daredevil stuff, of course.
Yeah, I've read the Daredevil stuff, the original run, and then Man Without Fear and Born Again. So I read all his Daredevil work. I haven't read Electro Assassin. I haven't read that, which he did with Sienkiewicz. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and I've read his Batman stuff. Right, all the Batman stuff, the Dark Knight Returns, Year One, and the Dark Knight sequels I've read, and also the prequel. What was it? The Last Crusade. I read that as well.
Yeah.
So I read all that. I've read some of the Sin City stuff. And
okay. Again, perfect example. Batman Year One. You read that thing, that's like a storyboard right there.
Oh yeah.
That's holding it in your hand. Yeah. It's like a storyboard.
Well, yeah, and Dark Knight Returns as well. Like that did amazing work on that as well, as far as like, and that especially is more him because he actually did the art on that one. Whereas Year One, it was who was it who did Year One art?
Was it Klaus Janson?
I think maybe it was Janson. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, and then his later stuff, like when he did the Dark Knight sequels, when he did Dark Knight Strikes Again, that was just, I don't know what the hell that was. And I read like,
what was that other craziness he did that he wrote?
That All-Star Batman and Robin. That was the other.
All-Star Batman and Robin.
That was the one I had tried to block out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But you know that the popular rumor behind that is that DC kept offering him money to do it, and he kept turning it down. So he said, well, you know something? I'm going to go out and I'm going to deliberately write the worst piece of shit that I can, just see how long that they go with it before they cancel it.
Yeah, but after seeing this and after seeing Dark Knight Strikes Again and the Holy Terror thing, I'm wondering how much of that is him just ass covering after everybody hated it.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it was too. I think that whole story was one that he cooked up to cover his ass because God knows that thing. I read that and I said, what, is this man on drugs?
The goddamn Batman.
Yeah, really? I said, is this man on what? Whatever he's on, and it's not the good drugs either.
No, definitely not.
Oh my God, yeah. But Yeah. So anyway, folks, that's it. That's our, this is our first review our first criticism where we trash the movie. So
Yes, yeah.
Take it for what it is.
All right. So now that means it's my pick for next week.
Yes, and I'm sure you're going to redeem us.
Well, I'm gonna try. So I'm actually gonna kind of connect it to two things that we had happen in this episode. First thing I'm gonna connect it to is, so this week we had an adaptation that was a terrible adaptation and also a terrible movie. So next week I want to go with a movie that is also a terrible adaptation, but is actually a pretty entertaining movie. And it's also, and the other callback is because we talked about Keanu Reeves at the beginning of this episode. So I thought, I put that in. That was foreshadowing for all you guys out there. So, because next week I think we're gonna watch Constantine.
Oh, okay, yeah, one of your favorite movies.
I wouldn't say my favorite, but it's a movie that I really enjoy. Despite,
you enjoyed it more than you thought it was.
Well, it's, and I'll talk about this more last week, but I hated it when I first saw it, and then a few years later I watched it again, and I'm like, you know what, this is actually not too bad, and now I've come to enjoy it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So yeah, it's a movie that my view has definitely evolved on over time.
And let me stick in one thing here that I meant to put in, that this isn't the only Spirit movie. There was a TV movie.
Yes, I was going to mention that as well in '87.
Right, Pilot. So if you guys out there are at all interested in us, because I've never seen it, I would like to see it. I've never seen it, but if you guys would be interested in us watching that and talking about that as well, please let us know.
Yeah,
and,
see if we can find it too.
Yeah, because one is hard as hell to find, but from the people I know who have seen it, they say it is infinitely better than this.
Right. I read a review. I stumbled upon this last night when I was reading stuff about this movie, and I found someone who had done like a comparison review of both this one and the '87 version, and they said the '87 version is still over the top, and it's really. It kind of goes in the opposite. It's like more. It's goofier. It's like more of like it's like, kind of campy type thing.
Yeah,
and that's what I've read about it. So it's still got a lot of problems, but it's got problems in different ways.
With Sam Jones of Flash Gordon fame playing the Spirit.
Yes, yeah. Sam Jones played the Spirit in that one. Oh. All right, so that does it for this week. As always, head on over to Superhero Cinephiles, look up our group on Facebook, and join in. We've still got the running poll, asking for suggestions for our 50th anniversary episode, when we're going to be doing a live commentary on a movie that you guys pick. So you want to go there, you want to go and give us suggestions, because otherwise Derrick's going to recommend something like The Spirit, and you don't want him to do that. And trust me, I will find something of equal, if not worse quality than The Spirit to watch. Don't underestimate him. Don't challenge him on this.
Trust. I say this at the end of every episode. Trust me, you do not want to leave this up to me, folks.
So go ahead and do that, and go out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you can, or Stitcher, wherever you listen to this podcast. Every time you leave a review, that helps us out. We've also we've got a YouTube page now. We're starting to I'm starting to put the audio versions of the episodes we've already done up on there. And when we start doing video with the 50th episode, those will be on YouTube as well. But if you want to help us out, go over to superherocinephiles.com. Go to the there's a link to the YouTube page on the side, and go click on that and subscribe to our YouTube page, because that will help us prepare to get some more people interested in it, because YouTube starts showing it to more people when they get more subscribers. And that does it for now. Thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Good night. God bless. Thank you for listening, and sorry for the Spirit, folks.
Maybe you're forgiven for now, until I find a worse movie to punish you with. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of BesleonStudios.com.